Hello and welcome to Piperaise. In this video, I'm going to take you through a walkthrough of what Piperaise Start is. Essentially, it is our entry-level coaching program for early-stage startup founders who want to learn how to build and launch your fundraising campaign. But before I get into that, I first want to do a quick introduction to who I am so that you have a bit of context of the role that I play in Piperaise and the programs that we have. So let's get into it. So my name is 𝗶𝗵𝗃. I'm the founder at Piperaise, and I'm also the head coach through all of our programs. Now, just for your context, Piperaise is a company that's registered in the USA. So coming back to this, in terms of my professional delegation, I'm a chief marketing officer or chief commercial officer, and I have been, building up a career over the last 14 years in that particular space. So I handled all of the marketing, the business development, the lead generation, and also the sales functions for different organizations that I worked with. So as I mentioned, it was a career that spanned across 14 years. And what's interesting is that I actually worked across different types of organizations and sectors. So I've worked in the startup space, and that meant working with companies, SaaS companies, Web3 companies, companies that were in the health tech space and the fintech space, and even FMCG companies throughout my career. From there, I moved on to the agency side. So most recently, I was the agency director for a government-based organization that put on world-class events, multi-billion-dollar kind of events, such as the Formula One, the UFC, the NBA games, and that was everything across marketing, creative, digital, and event management. I then moved on to consulting. So I pretty much joined a consulting tech firm as the chief marketing officer. And that firm focused particularly on enterprise SaaS and B2B contracts ranging in the millions of dollars. And it centered around everything around, technology, data management, even AI and blockchain. So in that role, I really focused on the go-to-market strategies, partnerships, and alliances for giant tech companies in the US and in Europe that wanted to expand across to the Middle East, Africa, and Asia markets. Some of these companies include Snowflake, 𝗧𝗶𝗺𝗀𝘀, Dataiku, AWS as well. So I was in that space when it comes to the consulting from a tech and data management perspective. I then moved on into the venture capital space, which I enjoyed quite a bit. I was doing a lot of investor relations and fundraising as a service. So it meant building those relationships with investors and also working with first-time founders and early-stage founders who wanted to raise their seed or Series A rounds. I offered advisory services and guidance on how to build these systems and run it to help them land their investment rounds. So this is a breakdown, of my experience and where I'm coming from. And the end goal here is to take all of that experience, that knowledge and expertise and channel it into something that can really deliver value for first-time founders and also for investors alike. And all of that experience, knowledge, and expertise is what I'm putting into Piperaise, which is a company that I founded. Now, Piperaise has 3 different focal areas, right? The first, of course, is our guided coaching programs, which is one-on-one, or it can be, with 2 or 3 founders. And the idea behind this is to teach them everything that I did for those $10,000 a month clients in the VC space. It's pretty much condensing that into a program where you will learn all of the tricks, the tactics, the strategies that you can adopt and apply in your startup to help you manage your fundraising campaigns from start to finish. It's targeted for early stage startups, so those raising your pre-seed or seed, even Series A rounds. And again, it's geared for first-time founders who don't really know how to navigate that investment or fundraising landscape. Either you don't know where to start, or you're looking for something a bit more structured to help guide you step by step through that process. And the bigger vision for Piperaise through our guided programs as it grows is to also bring on experienced coaches who are also ex-founders or ex-investors or current investors to be able to advise you along the way. our Piperaise Pro program. It includes a VC analyst as well to help review your pitch deck, give you that analysis so that you know what to tweak, what to change, before you start pitching out to investors. So that's the program side of it. We also have the private community that I'm building, which includes founders and investors. And the whole idea behind that is to really foster better relationships so that you're not relying on cold outreach to investors you don't know, but the community will help facilitate, warmer introductions, warmer pitches, so that you have a better chance of building those relationships and also closing some deals there. The community will also have a lot of resources that we're going to be putting into there. These could be things like templates, toolkits, checklists as well from VCs that you can follow to help you on your journey. And of course, what's also driving that community is going to be private events. And that includes access to either, experienced investors in the VC space, angel investors, family offices, accelerators, and also some experienced founders. We can join some live events. These could be webinars or online streams where you can learn a little bit about their experiences, what they've done, a little bit of insight into the industry as well to help you along the way. And the last pillar of what we're building with Piperaise is our strategic alliances. Now, this involves me building relationships with venture capital firms, with angel investors, with family offices, accelerators, and incubators, just so that we can bring in a bit more value through the community, and also to have a better understanding of these different investors and what their thesis is or mandate is when it comes to their investments, because each one has their own. So the better we can understand what they're looking for, we could actually build out a checklist and give that to founders so that they can make sure they're ticking off all those boxes so that they know this is the perfect, investor that I can approach to raise my round. So that is a quick overview of what we're building here at Piperaise. The main goal is to be able to cultivate warmer relationships with founders and investors, to build better alignment so that you're not engaging with the investors who are not aligned to your vision or your industry. That way, saving time on both sides. It's also about driving better direction in terms of the industry so that we can collectively move in that same direction. And like I said, it's all about those warmer introductions, warmer relationships that we can cultivate to be able to drive better results. And of course, the end goal here is delivering real value for founders and investors alike. So now that you have a quick introduction to who I am and the role that I play in Piperaise, why don't we start taking a look at the Piperaise Start program and what you can expect in that. Now, this is a week-by-week breakdown of what you can expect in the Piperaise Start program. Piperaise Start is designed to be a 5-week program and it's an entry-level program for early-stage founders who don't want to go the full round of understanding everything that's involved with your fundraising, but to have a quick start guide to getting the essentials that you need in place to help you, secure those funding rounds. Now, this is a guided coaching program, so of course you will be working with me one-on-one each week to be able to build out all of these different deliverables that I have listed here. So, for example, week 1. It's all about building your fundraising system. All right. So what do you need to build a solid and scalable investor CRM? Right. We all use CRMs, particularly in our sales functions. So this is a question, right? Do you want to use your existing sales CRM for your investor outreach? It's something I don't recommend. I prefer to keep them separate. But how do you know which CRM to choose and what's going to be the best fit for you? Right. If you're working with existing legacy CRMs like your, HubSpots, your Pipedrives, your Zohos, your Salesforce, there's a few additional steps and integrations in that workflow that need to come in, and it might be a little, more costly. Whereas, the times have changed. There's new CRMs that have launched recently that actually do a lot of the heavy lifting, and it's more integrated into the databases that we need to access to be able to find those investor leads. So these are some of the things we'll evaluate in this week to be able to identify which could be the best CRM for you to build your investor database or investor management system. And we also look at the different stages of that pipeline that you need to build out, right? Everything from doing the initial pitch to landing that meeting to, sharing across the assets in your data room, all the way to negotiating your terms and being able to close that contract. So what does that deal flow and pipeline look like when working with investors? That's something we'll get into. The next part is looking at how to develop scalable investor outreach systems. And, that it really depends on what type of system you want to build, who you want to reach out to. Having something that is cost effective, scalable, and that's always working for you around the clock is something that you need to have, especially if you're looking at fundraising. Now, if you're going to be using things like, cold outreach, it is one of the most effective ways to really reach investors, but you have to do it right. It's a bit of an art, and there's a bit of a process to be involved. Nobody likes cold emails, but when you do it right, it's the channel that I've seen that actually converts the best when done correctly. So in that whole process, we also need to set up your outreach systems. We need to set up your domains, your mailboxes. We need to warm them up during that process so that, the reputation of your emails doesn't get harmed and those emails do end up in those, primary inboxes. So there's a whole strategy behind how we do that. And that's what we cover in week 1. Now, in week 2, it's all about structuring your pitch assets. Okay. So how do you set up a data room and manage that access? It could be something as simple as setting up a Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive folder and being able to share that. Or on the other end of the spectrum, you could really use tools that track and report on the engagement and activity, how people are actually accessing your content, how these investors are consuming it, how much time they're spending on each page or each slide of your deck. These are insights that you can actually gain. Now, these are the two ends of the spectrum. Which one is going to be the best fit for you? How do you set it up? These are topics that we'll cover, and I'll walk you through all of that so that you have the best understanding of which one to go with and one that also, fits your budget. How your pitch deck is structured and what needs to be included. Okay, so if you're coming into this program with an existing pitch deck, one thing to note is that we don't really do an in-depth analysis and feedback on your pitch deck in this program. That's more for the Piperaise Pro program, where we actually offer that with feedback from a VC analyst so that you can actually tailor and structure your deck that's going to, pretty much optimize you for the best results. In this program, however, in Piperaise Start, we will provide you with the guideline on what you need to include in your deck, what to do, what not to do. That's something that you can follow to be able to put together a pitch deck. If you don't have one, or if you already have one, you can follow those guidelines to know what needs to be tweaked in there. We'll also show you how to create a one-pager or a teaser and why that's needed, right? And your initial engagements with investors, you do want to give them a glimpse, but you don't want to share that whole deck with them. So this is where one-pagers become useful as a summary of what's going to be included in your deck, a few highlights, to pique their interest and to then get them into that meeting where you can share that pitch deck and walk them through it. And then the last part of structuring your pitch assets is also understanding what an investment memo is and how to build it. So an investment memo is a professionally drafted document that investors work with. It's not about the design and it's not about, the overall pitch, but it's getting bullet points down to exactly what they're looking for and what they need. The information they need to be able to make a decision. Now, this is something where we have a template, we have a guide that I've also put together. I've worked on a lot of these investment memos, and I will share that with you as well so that you know exactly what to create. And you'll have a tool that you can share with investors, which, believe me, they do appreciate. And it's also things, that other startups are not doing. So again, it's something to help you stand out from the pile. Now, in week 3, we start looking at how to build your investor database. Firstly, you need to know what type of investors you're looking for that fit, your industry or niche, where to look for them and how to find them. You also need to know how to gather that contact information and just also making sure that it's valid, right? We don't want to find email addresses and put them through the outreach systems and then, 50% of them are bouncing either because the person has changed jobs or either it's an old data and it's invalid. So that whole process is about making sure we're finding the right information. Obviously, you're not going to be able to gather everything about a particular, investor or a person in a VC firm. So there will be some missing gaps. What is that process we take to fill in those missing gaps, right? There are tools, there are ways to be able to populate that data and enrich that data so that you have a complete, accurate, and up-to-date database that you can work with and that you own moving forward. And also we, cover a bit on how to keep that CRM up to date as well, how to make sure that it will always have the right information, the latest information on there, and any, activities that happen through the outreach, how are we syncing that back to the CRM so, it becomes your main source of truth. Now, the next part is week 4, where we look at crafting your pitch and outreach. So this goes deeper into how you pitch yourself and your startup to prospective investors, and how to create those perfect cold to warm pitches so that you can land more meetings. Like I said before, pitching to investors is actually an art, especially if you're going to be using cold outreach. So how do you make sure that from that cold outreach, you're giving them that teaser, giving them those things that they want to know so that you can land that next meeting where you can actually go more in depth into your overall pitch and your startup and what it's aiming to solve. In this week, we'll also cover how to prepare for investor meetings and how to deliver your pitch, what to do, what not to do, so that you can avoid those common mistakes, and how you can get feedback from investors and make the necessary adjustments in your deck. Right after, you pitch to investors, some might be interested, some might not be, some might give you a reason why they're not moving forward. There's certain ways to make sure that, you can collect that feedback and also input that into your system so that you can then tailor your strategy and your pitch moving forward. Okay, and then week 5 is all about getting investor ready. Okay, it's making sure we're covering all the bases. And we do that by answering a master VC checklist that I've put together, which has more than 300 questions that you would need to answer. And actually, if you've answered all of that, you're 100% ready to be able to talk to investors. Anything they throw at you, you'll be able to, navigate those questions, and you'll actually already have the answers to that. It'll also cover what are some of those key metrics that will actually lead to funding. It's not, there's certain things that influence an investment decision. What are those metrics? Do you have them ready? And how can you highlight that to investors? We'll cover some of the common fundraising, mistakes made by first-time founders and how to avoid them. For example, one that I see quite often is startup founders, they inaccurately estimate their total addressable market or their TAM, or they're using methods that, just highlight that they don't know what they're talking about or they haven't done enough research. These are key giveaways to investors. So how do we make sure we're avoiding that and we're actually justifying what we're saying? And then, of course, just focusing on what investors are actually looking for and how to give it to them, right? The easier you make it for them to find that information and to get an understanding of your pitch, the more likely chance you have to, to progress that discussion and move them along the pipeline. So that's a quick look at, the 5 weeks of the Piperaise Start program, what's included in it. And like I said, it's a one-on-one or, 2 or 3 people from your team that want to join the call. It's an engagement with me every week where we go through each of these different scopes and be able to build out, those outcomes. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the pricing of the program and what it includes. So like I said, it's over 5 weeks. We have different payment options. You can pay through Stripe or through via a bank transfer. And we actually do offer an option here. So it could be a one-time payment of $2,500 or $2,500 at the booking stage to confirm your spot in the program, or we could split it into 2 payments. But just a heads up that there is a 10% fee added on top of the cost to be able to do the split payments. And that includes $1,500 at the booking for the confirmation, and then $1,250 3 weeks later as we're later into the program. So that's the split option is an effective option. If cash flow is a concern for you, especially if you're an early stage startup, this just helps to manage that. But of course, the one-time payments provides the better savings and also secures your spot for the whole 5 weeks. So a little bit about the program. Like I said, it's made for early stage startups, first-time founders. If you're raising your pre-seed or seed funding rounds, this is going to be the perfect fit for you. It is open to international startups, so wherever you are based in the world, I pretty much work across flexible time zones, and we can always work around what's the best time to meet to schedule those sessions. I obviously do have certain slots that I allocate for these types of meetings, but because I work with startups in different time zones, I always try to accommodate them as well. And again, this is all conducted virtually through, Google Meet or Zoom meetings. So you'll have a face-to-face conversation with me each week as we work through the different topics that we have. And then also there's going to be some work to be done, outside of those sessions. And that's what we're going to have set up. So if you're curious and you want to know, a little bit more about the program, you can definitely visit our website, because pretty much I've put everything that you would need to know in there. As you scroll through, you have the video, you'll understand what you'll gain from this program as well. A weekly breakdown of what we cover. While it has the top level, indications, the video has walked through a little about what to expect each week. And of course, there's, some FAQs that I've added on here that you can read through to have a better understanding of any questions you might have that I'm not covered. I've pretty much put it on here. And, before I close off, I want to cover what's the alternative, right? Usually when startup founders, when they look at the cost of the program, they're just evaluating the cost, right? It's $2,500 for 5 weeks. But what they're not assessing is what is that alternative cost, right? The cost of going with an agency or an investor relations firm, or the cost of even not doing the program, right? Everything has implications. So, for example, and I'm coming from that agency or investor relations firm, right? So these are inputs that I'm going to give you, which is pretty much based on the experience. So what type of engagements can you expect, with Piperaise versus going with an agency? If you go with Piperaise, it's a coaching and mentorship program, right? Whereas when you work with an agency, it's a retainer services engagement. So you're going to retain their services for a period of time where they will do all of this for you. With Piperaise, we're actually showing you what needs to be done and how to do it. The duration. So, what's the duration of both of these programs? Well, or both of these options. With Piperaise Start, it's a 5-week program. And like I said, it has a weekly one-on-one meeting where we will connect. We will go through each of these together and I will show you exactly what needs to be done and share feedback on the best way to do it. With an agency, it's a minimum 3 to 6 month contract that you will need to sign with them to be able to retain their services. From a billing standpoint, an agency is going to bill you upfront for those 3 or 6 months. With Piperaise Start, it's, we can do a one-time or a split payment for the program. So what's the fee that you can expect to pay on both of these? Now, from an agency perspective, you're looking to pay at least, $6,000 to $12,000 upwards to retain that agency for that duration of time. With Piperaise Start, it's just $2,500 once off. There's no additional payments or monthly fees involved in that. The next part is actually the commission, right? What sort of commission can you expect to pay from these engagements? Now, with an agency, you're going to be looking anything between 5 to 15% upwards on the total investment amount that gets secured. Now, this can range, of course, depending on the agency, what they're offering, or how you're negotiating your services with them. With Piperaise, there's zero commission. We don't take any commission on any investment that you raise because, again, it's you that's actually going to be doing it, and that's your money that you're securing. The program is just coaching you on the best way to get it. And ownership, right? This is a big one because when you engage with an agency, any agency actually, everything is owned by the agency. Any systems that they're going to be using to do the outreach, any relationships that they have with investors that they're going to leverage, you're just renting it for that period. And that's what you're paying for. Whereas on Piperaise, you pretty much own everything, right? The systems that you set up, the CRM, the investor databases, the funnels, the relationships that you build with investors and those industry connections, it's all going to be retained by you. And pretty much I'm going to show you how I do that because that's what I've done for these other agencies. So when we look at the overall business value here, if you go with an agency, it's going to be a very short-term value that gets delivered. Whereas with Piperaise Start, it's actually long-term because you're retaining everything, you're owning everything that you're going to build in this program. And that, you could use that for any future rounds, whether it's your seed rounds, your Series A round, Series B, you will have the investor databases, you'll have the CRM set up, you'll have the strategy and approach that you can take. So you're pretty much set, as you continue in that journey. And then lastly, community, right? Most agencies or investor relations firms don't really have a community behind them. And there's no additional layer of engagement or support that they can provide. With Piperaise Start, that's where it's different. Okay, we're actually building a community behind Piperaise, and that means you'll have access to that community. You'll have access to fundraising resources, checklists, toolkits to help you in your journey. We'll have some private events and interviews with industry leaders and VC investors, and also some startup founders to share their experiences, to share their advice. And then, of course, you'll have access to that networking with other founders and also with investors in this program. So there's a lot of value that gets delivered with Piperaise Start versus, going down another agency route to get it done for you. But the primary difference here is Piperaise shows you how to do it, and you own and retain everything in that process. Whereas an agency, you're pretty much renting their systems, their databases, their relationships to help you achieve the goal, and which would be in a short-term value. Now, if you're a founder and you're looking at the cost of the program, right, $2,500, what I want you to do is to also assess what's the cost of not taking on this program or not being or participating in this, right? $2,500 over 5 weeks. The cost of not participating in the program, the cost of not building out your investor systems, what would be the cost of not building out a fundraising strategy? What's the cost of not closing your investment round, right? Just think about that for a second. There is a cost attached to that. This is where you need to decide the cost of taking action, the cost of not taking action, right? This cost is measurable. It's $2,500 over 5 weeks. The cost of not taking action or not closing your investment round, that's something you would need to calculate and estimate. And I can tell you from experience that it far outweighs what this cost is right here. So that's why I'm saying you'll get more back in long-term value just over this 5-week participation. So if you're interested in joining, Piperaise Start and you want to, enroll in the program, all you need to do is come to our website, click on the booking form, which is right here. And it's going to take you to this page where it details pretty much everything that's already on the website about the program. And this is where you can fill out a few forms, to tell us about you, tell us about your company and the fundraising journey and the stage that you're at the moment. You can choose your preferred payment option, whether you want to do a one-time payment or whether you want to split it, into 2 payments. You can choose your preferred card payment if you want to pay via credit card through Stripe, or if you want to pay via bank transfer. When are you looking to begin the program as well? This depends on you. But let me tell you that it also depends on availability, right? You can book and pay and confirm your spot so that no one else can book that for that period. Or, if you want to pay for it upfront, just make sure that you secure your spot when the program starts. Ideally, we set this as an ideal start date so that I can also manage how many clients that I work with during any given time. And then, of course, you just need to accept the terms and policies, which we have on our website, and you can go through and then submit and enroll. And once you do that, I'll receive your booking form. I'll go through the details to make sure, yes, we can definitely work together. Yes, we do have availability during that time. And then I'll get my team to send over the payment link so that we can complete the booking. And then we're off to the races. So that's a quick look at, Piperaise Start and what it includes. I hope it's covered everything that you might need or wanted to know about the program. Like I said, there's a ton of FAQs on the website itself, so be sure to go through it. And if you still have any questions, use the chat feature on the website. Just drop us a message, and we'll be happy to take it forward from there. Thanks so much, and I'm actually looking forward to working with you if you decide to move forward.